Hello and welcome to Bingewatch, the podcast where we take a look at the hottest new TV and film releases on streaming television platforms. I'm Hannah Fernando, the Editor-in-Chief of Woman and Woman at Home magazine.
And I'm Ian McEwen, writer on TV and Streaming Week, TV Times and What's on TV magazines. And today we're looking at the new releases that will be available on Friday the 5th of June 2026, including a new version of the classic thriller Cape Fear, starring Javier Bardem on Apple TV+, and reality show The Vardys, charting the daily lives of Rebecca and Jamie on ITVX. We'll also be looking at the new Disney Plus comedy Not Suitable for Work and the return of Clarkson's Farm to Prime Video. But first, Hannah, what is in the news?
Well, Riz Ahmed and Mark Wahlberg will star in a fact-based Netflix drama, The Big Fix, about an investigation into football match fixing.
And a sequel to Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, with Brad Pitt reprising his role as a film stuntman, will arrive on Netflix this Christmas. Pretty good selection this week, quite varied as ever. We're going to start on Apple TV with a new drama called Cape Fear. And here's a clip.
Let me ask you a question. What is your worst fear?
Max Cady was released from prison.
What does that have to do with us? He's been locked up 17 years for a murder he didn't do.
You were his lawyer, right?
Right, so 2 episodes first up, then they're going to drop weekly. There are 10 in total. If the name sounds familiar, well, it's because, yes, it's a remake, really. So the original was starred Robert Mitchum as the ex-convict Max Cady, who terrorises a lawyer and his family. That was remade by Martin Scorsese with Robert De Niro. Yeah, that was the 1991 film. And now we have a 10-part series with the fabulous Javier Bardem playing Cady. Okay. And in this, yes, so his defence attorney was called Anna. She's played by Amy Adams. Good to see her back. She's married to Tom Bowden, played by Patrick Wilson. They have 2 kids. And Max is now out of prison and he's been exonerated. He was put away for murder, but he's been exonerated. And Anna kind of specialises in miscarriages of justice and getting people out of prison. But Cady is out for payback because during the trial, she and Tom, who was the prosecutor, got together. Yeah, so he's suspicious, and it sounds as if they may be hiding secrets. So this does look very good, I must say. And Bardem is always excellent. I mean, he was absolutely terrifying in No Country for Old Men, wasn't he? He was great in Skyfall as the Bond villain. So you know what's coming. He's going to start pretty much stalking the entire family, and it won't end well. So yeah, he's very charismatic in this, Bardem. Adams is good. I mean, I find it quite uncomfortable to watch because I know what's coming down the track. Just a whole family being terrorised by a really scary bloke. But yeah, I think it's well done, it's well cast, it's different enough to make it interesting. So another hit, I think, for Apple TV, and Scorsese and Steven Spielberg both involved in this. What did you think of this, Hannah?
Well, I mean, it is pretty scary, isn't it? Because it's just the idea that one person released from prison can kind of unleash this holy hell of fear on the whole family. And that's what's so scary about it. So it's proper horror, scary, haunting, edge of your seat stuff. And lots of kind of jumpy things as well, which I'm never very good at. I'm the person that doesn't need to be holding a glass of red wine when that happens, because it will go all over the sofa. And it kind of impacts them mentally as well as physically, doesn't it? Because there's lots of game playing in this. So it's mind games, physical horror, generally horror is what I would say. So if you like this sort of thing, you like to be scared out of your wits on a Saturday night, this one is for you.
Well, we've already got a sports documentary about footballer Jamie Vardy on Netflix as part of the Untold series. There's also one about Vinnie Jones. Well, now the Vardys have their own reality show on ITVX called The Vardys. And here's a clip.
Jamie Vardy is going to leave Leicester City on to the next chapter.
Italy.
It's been a really tough 5 years.
You either love me or you hate me.
She's strong enough to deal with anything.
5 armed guys with crowbars. He has to decide whether we are staying or we're going back to England.
So I have watched the first episode of this, and apart from the infamous Wagatha movement, which most people will remember, where Colleen Rooney and Rebecca Vardy got in really a head-to-head fight, where Colleen Rooney revealed on Instagram that it was Rebecca Vardy selling stories on her, and that, of course, Rebecca Vardy then took her to court for defamation and subsequently lost. Now, the reason I mention this is because when you see the Vardys, of course, it is both of them. But when this starts, this very much features around his career, and that's what it sort of feels like at the beginning. It feels like it's going to be those kind of sports documentaries that you and I, Ian, really enjoy, actually, and you kind of learn a lot about the characters and why they're doing what they're doing, and a little bit of a sneak behind the curtain, so to speak. But actually, this is not really where it ends up. This is much more of a sort of fly-on-the-wall reality television show, which just does incorporate some of that football talk, a lot of it, because, of course, their lives change fundamentally because he leaves his British football club and moves to an Italian football club, which means that the whole family has to move abroad. Well, they don't have to, but they do. And you go on that journey with them, the highs and the lows. But the Wagatha Christie element it sort of underpins a lot of that first episode. I don't know whether it drops off after that, but she says on more than one occasion, hell will freeze over before she apologises. It's something that she wants. I feel like she wants to get her version of events out, and it's obviously highly edited. It's their version of events, is what they want you to see. And I kind of wanted to, if I'm honest with you, I kind of wanted to warm to her a little bit more than I did, if I'm honest with you. I kind of wanted to, because she has been, she is the villain of the story, I suppose, in the whole Wagatha Christie tale. And, what do you believe, what don't you believe, other than what the judge has said and what the judge has ruled? I guess that's what you have to go with, which she doesn't agree with. She thinks they got it wrong. But she talks about the fact that she's been treated worse than a paedophile. She's very over the top in this. It feels a lot about her and her feelings, and she does sort of talk about that a bit, because at one point she says, because she's getting really stressed about moving to Italy. I've clearly got loads of money there. House is absolutely incredible. It's footballer's salary, isn't it? House is amazing. They want for nothing, but it's all relative, I guess. And what she says is, look, people will look at me and think, why are you stressing out about this? You've got absolutely everything. But she says, actually, it's really tough. I've got to move the kids. I've got to find new schools for them. I've got to find a new home for them. I suppose anybody else having to do a job move would have to do that all by themselves, but they do actually have helpers to do that. They are able to fly back from holiday and then fly out to Italy to sign contracts and leave their children behind, whereas most of us don't have that kind of luxury, I suppose. And I think that's the hardest part to navigate in this, in my opinion, is we want to be the girl next door, we want to be the family next door, I'm sure are a lot of fun, but still the divide is very, very clear. So you do learn lots about them to a degree. You can see why he's doing what he's doing. He's a very passionate player. He adores his wife. They adore their children. Her children seem to absolutely come first for her. So it is a fly on the wall documentary, but it did leave me, if I'm honest with you, in a little bit cold. There were times I just wanted to feel more warmth, but then maybe they've had to harden because of the environment they've been in. But you can't help but get away from that Wagatha Christie story that hit headline after headline after headline, and she did lose that court case. And I can't help but wonder what Colleen Rooney thinks. I feel like this is a tennis match, and one hits the ball over the net and the other one's gonna hit back. It's an interesting watch. It's light viewing, but as I say, I didn't fall in love with them as much as I thought I might. What did you think, Ian?
Yeah, I did quite enjoy it. I do think an element of it is an attempt to sort of rehabilitate Rebecca, isn't it? Although, as you say, she's sticking to her guns and saying, the court got it wrong, But as we know, never litigate. It's a bad idea. And so it turned out. I mean, Jamie Vardy's story is astonishing, to go from non-league to winning the Premier League with Leicester. And he's a really likeable guy. And yeah, as you say, they seem like a pretty solid couple. But I mean, he could have retired on a high, but he obviously wanted to keep playing. I mean, I don't know if they needed the money particularly, but yeah, so you follow him at very short notice, heading off, signing a contract and going off to play in Italy. And I mean, I found that very interesting, because it's so much upheaval, isn't it, for the whole family? It's, I mean, obviously the money's going to be good, but it's very disruptive. I liked it. I enjoyed it. And I think it was quite good just to get to see a bit more of Rebecca, rather than just her turning up to court and being traduced in the tabloids. And I guess also probably part of the deal for making the show was you are going to have to talk about the Wagatha Christie thing. So yeah, I thought it was perfectly enjoyable, but nothing kind of groundbreaking or amazing. Yeah, just a family going through quite a hectic time together. Over on Disney Plus, we've got a new comedy series called Not Suitable for Work. And here's a clip.
Good evening, gentlemen.
This party's insane. If you'll excuse me, I see at least 15 ladies I need to talk to before my beta blocker wears off.
You have a crush.
I can't have sex with a coworker, let alone my boss.
Well, can I have sex with him? He's so hot.
Abby.
People are either productive or dead weight.
If you're not steamrolling someone, you are getting steamrolled.
Don't know if you remember, Hannah, there was this comedy called Friends, which had this group of young New Yorkers living in neighbouring apartments. Do you remember that? Have you ever wondered why hasn't someone made the new Friends? Well, you could say someone has now, and that someone is Mindy Kaling, who was famously in the American version of The Office as Kelly Kapoor, and very good she was too. She also wrote quite a lot of the episodes, and since then, she's just had an incredibly successful career. So this is the third series that she's written kind of based on her own experiences. So she had one called Never Have I Ever, about her teenage years. She had another one called The Sex Lives of College Girls, which was about her time at uni. And yes, now we have Not Suitable for Work. And I thought, this is like Friends, but not as good as Friends. But I got to say, it did grow on me. So yeah, basically, this group of 20-somethings, you've got a medical student called Kel, played by Nicolas Duvernay, but he actually wants to be an actor. We've got a Nepo kid called Josh, played by Jack Martin, who, because of his dad, he's got this he's been employed as a TV production assistant. Okay. You've got a kind of finance guy called Davis, played by Will Angus. So they live together. And then across the hall, there's a fashion stylist called Abby, played by Avantika. And she lives with her best friend AJ, played by Ella Hunt, who has just arrived from Boston. And she is also going to work at the same place in finance where Davis worked. And you can tell there's going to be some romance on the cards. But there's also quite a lot about their working lives, which we didn't particularly get in Friends, did we? And also this is much more diverse than Friends. I mean, it has to be, really, doesn't it, these days? So it's had some not great reviews, I would say, but I actually thought it was funny. I quite liked the characters. I was invested in it. So, and Carling is clearly she's just hugely talented. She keeps churning out these shows. So, yeah, actually, I quite enjoyed it. I mean, I'm not sure if I'd stick with it, but I think it's worth a look, especially if you like Friends and you're like, oh, someone's done something similar. So, yeah, cautiously recommended. What did you think of this, Hannah?
At first, I thought this was a massively brave decision by somebody to do this because, as you say, it has all the markings of Friends, which of course is, and it was and still is, phenomenally successful. So the idea of trying to recreate something like that just seems, blindly stupid, doesn't it? But actually, and I suppose to a degree that is what they're doing. But it is different, as you say. It's more diverse. It's got it looks at different things, despite it still being a comedy. And as Carling says, those time periods are just so juicy. And I suppose what she means by that is that it's an interesting age to navigate, isn't it? You're an adult, you're supposed to be grown up, you're navigating a new world of work potentially, and living with friends and having relationships. You're still really young, aren't you, in a way, emotionally, mentally, you're still growing. And so I suppose you get a bit more of that sense in this. It is funny. It's different funny, but as I say, because the premise is so like Friends, I think you're going to get a lot of people watching this feeling, I don't know if this is just as good as that, but I think you almost need to kind of cut free from that thought and see this as something just completely new. And I think you will enjoy it. Do I think we're going to be talking about this in however many years? I'm not sure we will in the same way because it's well-trodden ground, but it's nice viewing.
Well, we're going to finish on Prime Video with a return of one of your favourites, I think, Hannah, Clarkson's Farm. And here's a clip.
I've had a brainwave, don't worry.
You're going to have a driverless tractor.
What's that?
Behold my technology at work.
That's basically taking my job.
That is the Starship Enterprise of farming.
Oh, well.
Error detected, localization, hitch, tooling, fold off. What?
Oh, I do love a bit of diddly squat. I really do. So this is season 5, and the critics have, largely been quite harsh about this season, I think, from everything that I've read, that it's just doing what it always does, and probably at the beginning, is it wearing thin, I suppose? I don't know that it is, because if you think back to Jeremy Clarkson's Top Gear, for example, that did the same thing. And how many seasons did that go for? Because essentially they've unearthed a gold mine where people are enjoying this. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I really do. I think I subscribe to that with this, actually. Because in this series, well, from what I've seen, you see a softer side to Jeremy Clarkson. There have been snapshots of that before in the previous series, but he does get upset about his favourite pigs. He does get upset. He's so fully invested. And I think we as consumers and viewers now are completely invested in this franchise. We want to know what his next thing's doing, from opening a new pub to, dealing with, tractor issues. And in fact, in this one, he's created this driverless tractor, which I think is to show him as Clarkson, just having a good old laugh. You see him really rolling up his sleeves, don't you, in this? You get to see the real him and love him or hate him, and he probably is a relatively Marmite character. He has got a cult following. People do like what he does, and that he's somebody who says what he thinks. You see the issues that he's having to deal with at his pub, or with the authorities over the farm, and sort of being the red tape that goes with it. You do learn something from it. Is it similar to the rest? Yes, it is. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think it works, and from what I've seen with this, I enjoy it as much as I did the first series, and I'm glad it's not changing too much. I'm glad we're just growing with the farm and seeing more and more things that he's doing. What do you think, Ian?
Well, whatever you think of Jeremy Clarkson, his views and his behaviour occasionally, there's no denying that he's just really watchable, and that is why this, like Top Gear before it and the Grand Tour, is a huge hit, because he's funny, he's interesting, he's funny, and this, as you say, this has more heart, and because it's real life to some extent. Obviously some things are kind of staged, of course they are, but there are calves being born, and I think Caleb's becoming a dad, isn't he? And then there's a tuberculosis outbreak. There's a traveller community comes to his land. He has some health problems as well. So yeah, it's really interesting seeing the kind of difficulties that are involved in running a farm. It's funny seeing someone like Clarkson kind of messing up all the time. That's where the comedy comes from. And yeah, he's just he's managed to produce another hit. So you've got to fair play to the guy. It's it's good entertainment for sure. Well, we've got to that time, young Hannah Maladio, where we find out what the hell you've been binge watching.
Well, I can tell you that I have been watching the Natalie Cassidy, I've watched one episode of it, Caring Together. Actually, I've met Natalie Cassidy a few times. She's got quite a kind of rich tapestry of things that she's done, but this is her as a student carer, and she's caring for the elderly. And I think that this is really topical and really relatable to so many people, because of course there aren't enough carers out there. We're all living longer, and have a right to be treated well in our final years, I suppose. And it educates you, actually. You really see the harsh side of it, as well as how fulfilling it can be. So I've really enjoyed it so far.
And where might we find that, Hannah?
You can find it's actually on terrestrial. I think let me just double check for you, but I'm pretty sure it's a BBC documentary.
Okay, well, I also have been binge watching a documentary series on iPlayer called The Mother of All Cons, which is about this charity that was set up by a mother and her daughter to help sick children, and it was backed by some of the guys from One Direction. It is one hell of a story. I'm not going to say any more, but oh my goodness me, it's superb. Now, we've just got time to look ahead to next week's offerings, so what's on the agenda, Brenda?
Nicola Walker and Jermaine Clement star in frenemy comedy Alice and Steve on Disney+.
And Gary Lineker's The Rest is Football podcast comes to Netflix on a daily basis for the duration of the World Cup. Yes. So we look forward to those and much, much more. But in the meantime, dear listeners, keep
watching.